What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for another installment in my Ranked series. Ranked is where I go through and rank a band or artist discography and their studio albums from worst to best. And yes, just studio albums, that's why you're not seeing Sawdust today. That is a compilation record. Today we are taking a look at the Las Vegas-based alternative rock band The Killers and all 5 of their studio albums. From their most recent album that came out in 2017, Wonderful Wonderful, all the way back to the 2004 record, their debut, Hot Fuss. This is my personal ranking of The Killers' studio albums. And keep in mind that, like I said, it's just my personal list and it is based on nothing other than that. It's not based on commercial performance or the best singles or anything like that. It's based on my overall opinions on these records. So I'd be curious to know, how would you guys rank The Killers' studio albums? Comment down below with your thoughts from worst to best. How would you rank them personally? And also, what other bands or artists would you like to see me do this with in the future? Please drop a like on this video, as these are very time consuming, they're a lot of fun to make, but they're also very challenging. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get right into The Killers' discography ranked.
Run me on, tiger, there's a lot on your mind. You strategize and name you, but don't you let them tame you. You're far too pure and bold to suffer the strain of the hangman's hold.
This is really tough to rank lowest on the totem pole when it comes to Killers' studio albums, as some of my absolute favorite tracks from the band live on Day and Age. Why last? Because I feel it's the least enjoyable as a whole. Brief, albeit playful, fun, but fleeting into the night. It's claimed many a heart among the Killers' fanbase, and I truly do respect that, but it's definitely worthy of criticism too. Let's start on a positive note though, not trying to drag any hearts through a field of glass here. The band did a really nice job at cultivating a lighthearted, dare I say spirited atmosphere on Day and Age. Lead single Human is absolutely prime real estate when it comes to fitting that description. It's vastly different with its shiny polished keys, airy programmed drums that open, and its stabby guitar and bass that roll in as the song continues. Opening track Losing Touch absolutely is one of the band's best songs, pushing a confident narrative with a bit of sarcasm. The progressions in the guitar and drums towards the end of the song is truly beautiful to hear, especially that guitar solo that pops up near the end of the track that you just can't help but air guitar along too. Joyride gets downright funky with that propelling bass and breezy guitar rhythm, with flowers coming in to detail a night in the Vegas desert that ends with a getaway. Also, can we give a shout out to the brass sections that pop up at various points throughout this record? Truly a nice touch that deserves many a kudos. Neon Tiger is a gem as well, some really subtle but commendable bass and string parts, with an impressive vocal range occurring during the chorus in particular. As far as negatives go, it's really all about feeling tired as the listener on what is the shortest Killers studio album to date. Singles Human and Spaceman especially are fun, but can quickly grow tedious with repeated listens. Closing moment Goodnight Travel Well is a nice spacious message, but draws on a bit too long for me to feel as if it justifies that nearly 7-minute runtime. I Can't Stay is perhaps one of the Killers' worst songs, bringing in that jazzy allure and a harpsichord? Day and Age as an album is a simply fine record. It's upfront about what it wants to be, and many will love it for that. Even though I have love and respect for its place in their discography, it really is my least favorite.
Question of my heart came to my mind. If I go on with you, can it be the way it was when we met? Did you forget all about those golden nights?
Battleborn is a cry from the heart of Brandon Flowers, and it's the epitome of this heartland rock leading record by The Killers. Perhaps an unpopular opinion among fans, but I really didn't care for this record all that much when it came out in 2012. I found many of the tracks to follow a strict Killers formula in a way, while also replicating styles that made heartland rock so loved decades before. As I've grown older, I've started to notice a lot of nuances in both the music and the lyrics that make this record a much more positive experience. Flowers often writes from a timeless perspective that in one breath takes you to 1950s Las Vegas, and in another takes you away to a more modern setting of romance, travels, and life at large. One can also appreciate the fact that Battleborn truly comes full circle and is easy to replay, with the closing moment, the title track, having a bit of mystique in its instrumental outro, fading out before the opening song Flesh and Bone breaks in with a similar tone. Electronic sounds are used sparingly throughout, but Flesh and Bone is a prime example of when the programming and keys mesh perfectly with an analog world of guitars and drumming. It instantly leads the charge, even referencing being Battleborn before a soaring chorus hits us. The Rising Tide was a long-awaited tune at the time of its release, having been played live for years prior. It once again sees an intro similar to that of the opening tune, but with a nice twist here. A rushing swirl of the 80s pop up in contrasting styles on appealing cuts, deadlines, and commitments, and the more energized from here on out to nice results. Flowers and Company do a great job of presenting stories on the majority of the tracks, and even though there's some songs that truly do feel a bit stiff and programmed to this day, the good most definitely outweighs the bad. Runaways is still easily one of the best and most anthemic tunes they've ever penned, and A Matter of Time is terribly underrated with its towering hook and an ever-building strong guitar presence.
Don't give up on me, 'cause I'm just in a rut. I'm climbing but the walls keep stacking up. Don't give up on me, 'cause I'm just in a rut.
With the Killers, it's never a quick turnaround anymore when it comes to making an album. Half of the members don't even tour anymore, and tensions have been notoriously high in the past. Hell, they even went to counseling sessions at one point to repair damaged relationships among bandmates. Fortunately for now at least, we still have Dave Kuning's signature guitar flares and Mark Stormer's stylistic bass grooves in a studio setting. Wonderful Wonderful is a return to form in not so much an over-the-top way, but in a we're locked in, let's make a record that matters to us way. It pushes biblical and political references, sways frequently with its stylistic aim, but never loses its connection to the listener in the sense that it all feels cohesive. The Man was the first offering from the album, and it mixed a jagged, cocky disco swagger with modern alternative rock, an impressive combo that really landed. Follow-up single Run for Cover is a Killers tune down to its core, vivacious in spirit, dangerously catchy, but also spry and fun. The opening moment, aka the title track, looms with a foreboding tone thanks to Stormer's deep bass intro that cycles throughout. It furthers this rather ominous dark appeal by adding in some compelling narratives and outside instrumentation, instantly becoming a top favorite for not only myself, but also many others. You could also say similar things about the immensely captivating The Calling, hitting you with a darker western-leaning feel that blends guitars, keys, and biblical inspirations. Things don't stay this dark, however, as motivating moments like Rut inspire and make a pitch vocal shift work to their advantage, and Tyson vs. Douglas takes on Flowers' fatherhood in a rather charming sports metaphor. The band takes their time to reflect, turning these musings into great songs such as the hopeful Life to Come, which I've really connected with on a personal level, as well as the closing sentiment, Have all the songs been written? The Killers answer that particular question unknowingly with this graceful album, as it goes down smooth but leaves you with plenty to think about in your own life.
I just wanna show you what I know and catch you when the current lets you go. Or should I just get along with myself? I never did get along with everybody else. I've been trying hard to do what's right, but you know I could stay here all night.
A truly great album can get overlooked if you can't get past the statements made about said albums by members of the band. Case number 1, Sam's Town was hailed by Brandon Flowers himself as one of the greatest albums of the past 20 years. Perhaps it truly was, but people just didn't want it to be since Flowers seemed so confident that it was. Despite all of that, Sam's Town has garnered a massive amount of love in the past decade plus since its release, going down as the most underrated album of the 2000s by Rolling Stone's Readers' Poll, and even being labeled as one of the best albums of the decade by publications such as Q. I, of course, love this album. It's rock and roll jams from the heart of 4 Vegas men doing it right. It doesn't quite top the gold they struck on their debut, but damn it if they didn't come close in a uniquely different way. Sam's Town relies more on a rock sound and storytelling even more than Hot Fuss did, finding a way to make you care about what's being said on each and every track. The title track is earnest and roars with desperation and life, For Reasons Unknown is alternative rock perfection, and Uncle Johnny has an incredibly strong instrumental. The Killers didn't check fun at the gate either, as Bones is wickedly enjoyable, and This River is Wild just gives a feeling of sheer happiness. Sam's Town takes the time to welcome passersby into the setting, even closing out on Exitlude in similar fashion, with Flowers addressing listeners and telling them that he hoped they enjoyed their stay. It's hard to deny how well this album has aged, so just like a fine wine, blow the dust off, take it off the shelf, and let the good memories flow.
She couldn't scream while I held her close. I swore I'd never let her go. Tell me what you wanna know. Oh come on, oh come on, oh come on. There ain't no motive for this crime. Jenny was a friend of mine.
Becoming an iconic band doesn't normally happen overnight, but for the young Las Vegas band The Killers, destiny was calling. Hot Fuss is sadly not the critical darling it deserves to be, but it's attained the legendary status nonetheless. There's not a damn song on this record that's anything less than fantastic, all in their own unique way. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you understand the importance and the impact of singles from this record. Jenny Was a Friend of Mine is hands down one of the best bass lines of the century, plus it's a part of the Murder trilogy. Mr. Brightside is universally known as one of the greatest songs of all time for obvious reasons. Somebody Told Me nails the throwback disco synth rock vibe, and all these things that I've done, oh, that glorious beast of a song. It's in my personal top 5 favorite songs of all time, and is peak Killers any way you look at it. It just doesn't get much better than that. There's much more than just the singles loaded up in the first half though, as we see a neurotic Flowers writing about a jock he desired to be on the slow-churning Andy You're a Star, and the well-layered synth-driven On Top. On Top also finds a special way to blend in a layer of guitars against the synth noise, blending perfectly against the slightly filtered vocals. Midnight Show deserves to be talked about much more, considering its place in the Murder trilogy alongside Jenny, and the Sawdust track Leave the Bourbon on the Shelf. Things ended perfectly with a calming ambient tune on Everything Will Be Alright, delivering a reassuring message after an album full of dark twists, turns, and secrets. Hot Fuss is without a doubt one of, if not the best debut album of all time, and one of my personal favorite albums ever. There it is, my ranking for all 5 studio albums by The Killers. What did you think about my video? Do you agree or disagree with some of the points that I made, or some of the rankings and positions? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and comment how you would rank the studio albums. And of course, if you would like to, please support me on Patreon at the top link down below. It helps these hard videos like this keep coming on a monthly basis, and it keeps the content flowing on both channels. If you want to go directly to my Patreon page, then tap the little handy dandy annotation over here in the corner. If you want to see another Killers themed video, right over here, or you can see the last episode of Ranked by tapping this card here. If you want to connect with me on socials, then tap the links in the description down below, and I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.